On today's episode, you'll learn about a cozy urban fairy tale, and you'll hear about the next book in the A to Z Mystery Tour. Stay tuned. Welcome to this episode of House of Books. I'm Catherine, your host. One of my goals on this podcast is to introduce you to books that can't necessarily be easily accessed by walking through the bookstore or by doing a quick online search, mainly because there's no publishing push putting these books in front of us. Sometimes that's because they're not recent publications. Sometimes it's because they're self-published. And of course, a self-published author doesn't have anywhere near the marketing budget that a large publisher would have. My goal is to help put these books in front of you myself because I've enjoyed them so much. I have discovered one book called The Gnome and Mrs. Myers. It is cozy. It's an urban fairy tale written by and read by Susan Klein, who is just an excellent storyteller. She is actually a professional storyteller. I look forward to learning more about her, but I encourage you to try and find that book, and I'll tell you how. So the book is called The Gnome and Mrs. Myers. It's about a woman, middle-aged widow in Chicago who has a visitor. He's a gnome, and he changes her life. Great story, lovely ending. I guess there's a prequel called The Big Send-Off, which I have not listened to yet. The book is free. You can find it on a website called scribble.com, which is SCRIBL.com. Just search for The Gnome and Mrs. Myers and it will pop up for you. That's actually a crowd-funded site, but there is no charge to read this, to listen to, or I suppose to read. I haven't really checked to see if it's an ebook on there because it is a legacy book from a previous website called patiobooks.com, which I loved dearly. So, The Gnome and Mrs. Myers by Susan Klein, suitable for all ages, cozy, not scary for kids, very enjoyable for adults. The perfect story for a cold November day. I think we're there, so check it out. Moving on to the A to Z Mystery Tour, I'm going to stay in the B's and I'm going to talk about an author who uses the pseudonym M.C. Beaton, B-E-A-T-O-N. I'll tell you a little bit later about who that's a pseudonym for, or you can do your own research if you like. Agatha Raisin is the detective in the series, which is called the Agatha Raisin series, and the first book in the series is called Agatha Raisin and the Quiche of Death. You might also just see it as the Quiche of Death, and that's quiche as in pie, Q-U-I-C-H-E. Agatha is unashamedly self-serving, insecure, very human detective, very charming in her own quirky way. She irritates those around her, but she also makes some good friends. I encourage you to check out that series. There's also a TV series based on the book. It streams on Acorn TV. It's not bad. The books are much better in my opinion, but I always say that. I'll be sharing relevant links from today's discussion on yourbookgroup.com. You know what to do. Just hover over podcast, House of Books in the menu, and from the drop-down, choose episode 5, and you'll see links to the books that I've talked about there today. If you are enjoying learning about new books, I hope you'll subscribe to stay in tune and in touch. I also hope that you'll rate this podcast 5 stars. The more 5-star ratings we get, the easier it is for me to put books in front of more readers who might be interested in learning about their next great read. Thank you so much. Happy reading.